Good morning and welcome to the Onsen Budgie Smugglers show with Yoshi and Crash. Welcome to my host, Yoshihiro Imagawa.
Hi,
How are you, mate?
good thanks to you, mate.
So, first thing in the morning over there where are you coming to us from?
Kyoto in Japan.
So, just had your morning breakfast. What's that consist of?
Yeah. I had toast and orange and coffee.
Pretty similar to me. I think I had a mandarin and got my coffee going here.
Oh, beautiful.
So this is the first episode of our podcast, Josh, and I guess maybe just introduce us to why we're doing a podcast.
Good question. Um, I really have a passion with writing and other media like the appearing in the video like podcasting. Then you offered me to set up this good podcast. That's why I'm here now.
Yep, very good. And personally, I mean, I've had a bit of a relationship with you based in footy for a long time. So some people might think, if you're not familiar with Yoshi and myself, that it's odd for someone in Japan to be interested in Australian rules football. So how did that come about?
Cool. Oh, sorry. What's the question?
How did your interest in Aussie rules football come about?
Oh, right. Um, I went to the Australian pub, back in 2008, 2009. Then, but I started, following the football in 2011. I watched the big screen from the outside. The first one is like, what sports? Is that really sports? But getting back, you know, sorry, but watching game by game, I really fell in love with the sports. Had the speed, quick, good physical contest. I really love footy.
Very good. And I guess I first discovered Yoshi. He started writing for the Footy Almanac about footy. And then we met up at a pub in Melbourne and had a few beers and have had a bit of ongoing dialogue ever since. And I also have a long time interest in footy played outside Australia.
Nice.
And it is played in Japan, various compositions. And Yoshi, I believe that you also discovered footy was being played in Japan.
Yeah, sure. I'm playing footy for the Osaka Dingos. Then I played two international, footy matches in China and Thailand. Like, St. Kilda Football Club, had a clash against Port Adelaide in Shanghai in 2019. Then I joined the Shanghai Cup, like, hosted by AFA Asia. Then also I played a tournament called AFA Asia Championship in Thailand, also in 2019.
So we both obviously have a common interest in footy and international footy, but Yoshi, you produce pretty regular sort of newsletters about your life, and I find it pretty interesting about your life in Japan. And I guess one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast was to learn a bit more about Japan and maybe help each other to learn and experience some things of our countries. I know you've been to Australia. I haven't actually been to Japan. But hopefully through doing these podcasts, we can discover a little bit more about each other, I think.
Absolutely, yes. Also, if you come to Japan, let me know, then I'll show you around the country.
I very much look forward to doing that one day.
Sure.
So, yeah, hopefully during that process, we can both become a little bit more educated about some things going on in our countries. And for those watching, you can find a little bit out as well. So what we've planned to do to sort of flesh this out each week is to sort of come up with a current sort of news story from news in our own countries, and then just have a little bit of a discussion about that and see what we can find out. So, you want to lead things off this week, Yoshi, with a story from Japan?
Right. It's not a new stuff, but I really talk about the big issue happening in June. I read out the headline now. Japanese worker loses USB containing Amagasaki citizens' personal data during night on the town.
So tell us about Amagasaki for a start.
Yeah. Actually, I have to say, I really like that city. Also, like, if you know about St. Kilda Football Club, out there, Amagasaki is more like more being like the heartland
Yes.
compared to the seafood. Many people, many players don't like seafood because too far away from the city center.
Yeah.
Also, seafood has not got many, place to socialize. The Amagasaki is like more being like for me, heartland. That's why I picked up this news as well.
Very good. So the worker has a USB. He has a big night on the town. In so, what would a big night on the town look like in Amagasaki?
Actually, I have never been to any night out over there. Unfortunately, I live in Kyoto, like quite not far away, but not too close. So I'm not sure, but there are so many, pubs, like bars in town. I'm sure. However, this incident happened in Suita, like another city in Osaka, like next to Osaka city, actually. Unfortunately or fortunately for whatever.
So, what would be the drink of choice in Amagasaki for a night on the
I
town?
have to I have to investigate, but basically we could have beer, like a sake or a shochu, like something like that, like pubs in Australia, but a different alcohol.
Do they have a local specialty alcohol there?
Uh, I think so, but I have to go to the pub, the other day.
Fair enough.
Maybe for the next, until next podcast.
I think
Have
yes, you need to do
to
some
have a night
research.
out of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do your research.
Yeah,
Um, so what's the sort of population size of Amagasaki?
about 460,000 people.
Wow.
Like,
So that's quite a significant bit of data, right?
yeah, a lot of data, yeah.
And what's the potential problem with this data being lost?
Bank accounts, every bank account, phone number, the address, etc. I are doubt to be lost. Somebody might have a look at them. They might contact for saved or forever the crime.
Yeah.
It could happen.
So it's very topical in Australia at the moment because we have a number of organisations that have been hacked by hackers, and
Yeah,
these kind of databases are making their way back out to the dark web, where then people can do identity fraud and basically steal money from your bank,
yeah.
among other things. And it's a very big topic in Australia at the moment. But it's one thing to lose it from a secure website where very clever hackers get into, and something different for a guy with a big night on the town losing it at the pub.
But yeah. Actually, he didn't, leave the bag in town, sorry, in the pub. Actually, what happens is like, he left the bag in guess where?
So do we know, did the USB ever get found by anyone?
Yeah, 2 days later, the bag was found in the same place.
Okay, so how much trouble would have this
Guess
individual
where
got
he left
into?
the bag? Sorry?
How much trouble would have this individual got into for losing this data?
Um, I think a lot. He, ruined the trust between the city council and the company. Actually, he works for the company, who was contacted by the Yamagasaki City Council.
Okay, so the company also is probably in some trouble, yeah?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
And obviously things are different in every country on how they view crime and punishment. But in Japan, what would be the punishment for the individual and the company, do you think?
Probably the company could potentially possibility cannot, be tendered or contacted, for years and years, I think.
Yeah.
But I have never heard about, the updated news from that point.
Yeah. And do you think like there
About
would be, fines imposed, like monetary fines?
I think so, yeah. The person will be fined, I think.
Yeah. And obviously their job prospects might not be so good after that incident.
Yeah, no good. He might be fired, sacked, or I don't know.
Yeah. I'll just mention, like in Australia, also recently that there was a medical insurance company called Medibank Private who was hacked, and not only do they have like all that personal data of emails and phone numbers and all that sort of thing, but also medical records and what people have been treated for.
Yeah,
And the big worry is that this will be used against people, particularly if people have put in insurance claims for mental health and things like that, that this
yeah,
will be used to blackmail people by people online. So really
yeah.
is a big problem at the moment and very topical in the news here.
Yeah, I heard that news as well. That's so bad.
So we'll move on to my story unless there's anything else more you want to discuss on that point.
I think we have, actually, discussed, but, I'd like to say this bag was found on the street, like in an apartment complex. He was, he fell asleep on the street around the apartment complex. Then he lost the bag.
Right.
He got drunk. No good.
Yep. As my father used to tell me, if you can't handle it, don't drink it.
Absolutely. Spot on.
Yeah, no, I think we've all had a big night, and I can sympathise and feel very sorry for that guy.
That's right.
All right, moving on. So the headline that I'm bringing to you this week was small but deadly animal hides in Liquorland fridge. So this is a very Australian story. So what do you think this might be about?
Small, nearly dead animal went to legal.
Deadly animal, which means it can
Deadly.
cause you to die.
Yeah. I think the animal, could be wombat or something. Feel the smell at legal hand, the bottle shop, right?
Yeah, Liquorland's a bottle shop, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure how it works in Osaka, but in Australia we have shops that sell just alcohol for you to go in and buy and take to consume at home.
Yeah, sure. Because I have lived in New Zealand, so I know what
Yes.
bottle shop is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the animal, it smells like beer or maybe beer or maybe spirit, something like that. Then went to the fridge. Then, but it's too cold, like ship. It felt shiver. Then he died in the fridge. He wanted to have a drink.
That's a much better version than the actual story.
Oh, really?
So now I'll tell you what happened. So,
Yes,
so they found a small snake hiding
snake.
in the fridge. So it's actually a
God.
venomous snake. So if you happen to reach in there to get an ice cold beer out of the fridge, you're in danger of dying from this venomous snake. So, so a customer spotted the slithery creature between the doors of a wine fridge at Liquorland in the Northern Territory and shared it
Yeah,
online. The northern brown snake, which was identified by the intruder, is fast and highly venomous. The person who saw it said, "I screamed when I zoomed in on that, the stuff of nightmares." So unfortunately for Australians, being on alert for venomous snakes is not only necessary for those that live in the warm northern states or the bush, it can be in your Liquorland fridge.
God.
So I don't know, Yosh, if you've heard much about what's happening here in Australia, but we've had a lot of rain this spring.
Yeah.
And in lots of parts of Australia, that's actually meant that there's been flooding. And we do have lots of snakes in the bush here in Australia, as you probably know. And when there's floods, it forces a lot of the snakes out of their holes. So it means that people are seeing snakes in a lot of places that they wouldn't normally see them, coming up to their house, maybe on their back porch or in their backyard, or in the parks and gardens around the place. So very dangerous at the moment out there with snakes on the loose. But don't worry, it's not really that bad. You're not going to walk around and see snakes everywhere in Australia if you come here. And generally, snakes are more scared of you than you are of them. They really don't want to interact with people, and they're just looking to do their own thing generally. And generally, they will go the other way. So you'd be very unlucky to be chased by a snake.
Yeah, I understand. But first say like I stepped in a snake one day, like when I was working for a railway company back in 1990s. Then I was very scared. Like, oh shit! Snakes, chase me. Like, oh, it's scary, man.
Yeah, no. Well, when you can die, you should be a little bit scared. I think that's probably quite reasonable.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's our news stories for this week. So we got a good little feel for a little bit of Japanese culture there, and a little bit of Australian culture with the snakes in the fridge. We'll just cover off a little bit personal each week, a little highlight and low light of the week. So, Yoshi, if you want to tell us your highlight from this week.
Yeah, like, I was lazy in exercising for a while, but since last weekend, sorry, I got back, on a regular bike ride and feels good. I feel good. That's
Good one.
highlight.
And how many kilometers would you ride on your rides when you go?
Maybe 8 to 10, I reckon.
And what's the sort of terrain there you ride on in Osaka? Is it rides? Is it roads? Is it parklands?
Just, riverside on the main, the flat streets.
Yep.
I go past one big park, but I go to different places every day, basically. So
cool. And are there lots of bikes out also riding when you're there? A lot of people ride in Osaka.
Sorry, I live in Kyoto, but it doesn't matter.
Tokyo. Sorry.
Kyoto, so not Tokyo,
Kyoto. Sorry, yeah.
Oh,
Kyoto.
it's right. It's right. Some people, commute to work by bike. So there are quite many people riding a bike, especially on the riverside, bike path.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so my highlight for the week was going to the T20 Cricket World Cup final. So I don't know if you know, but that was just held here in Australia. The final was at the MCG. And was contested between England and Pakistan. So there was a pretty enthusiastic crowd of about 80,000 turned up to the match. I had tickets that were given to me by my brothers for my 50th birthday, which I had recently. And that was pretty exciting. So the match pretty much went down to the wire. It looked like England was going to win easily. Pakistan bowled pretty well. But in the end, England are the champions of the 2022 T20 Cricket World Cup. So that was pretty entertaining. And just another little mini highlight I had this week. I had a friend in the US sent me this wallet, which is a credit card wallet, which is made out of an Aussie Rules football. So from the leather from that, he's cut that down. So that's Andy Vanica from the US, from the USAFL, played with the Denver Bulldogs. And that's fantastic. I really love that.
Nice. You got the free stuff from the US.
Yeah, from US footy. So that's fantastic. Now we'll move on to lowlights of the week. Don't want to bring the mood down too much, but definitely we can't have the highs without the lows. So tell us about your lows this week, Yosh.
Yes, Roy. Unfortunately, I'm still dealing with mental health issues. It's ongoing program. I'm having a high tide and a low tide. It's big. Then it's not easy to deal, but I'm feeling better now.
That's good, mate. Yeah, we definitely all got our lows, and it's how we deal with it and move on again. So it's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Fantastic that you can share that, I mean. So thanks for sharing. My low light of the week was tearing a very large hole in my leg. I went to a farm up in the Mallee a couple of days ago and was putting out a fire and tripped over and actually impaled my leg onto a bit of broken old pipe and had to drive myself off to the emergency ward in Swan Hill, where they put 30 staples in to heal all that back together after they cleaned it all out. So pretty painful, and I'm struggling to sort of get around at the moment because I'm in a fair bit of pain, but that was my low for the week. A bit dramatic.
Oh no. Was it a slippery like that? Slippery or?
Yeah. But I'm recovering now, so I'll be okay.
That's good. That's good to hear that.
Thanks, mate. And I think we'll finish off with a little bit of footy talk. So there's been a bit going on in footy, and Yoshi, you're a massive St Kilda fan, obviously. So I just thought I'd ask you a little bit about what your thoughts are on the coaching change at St Kilda with Brett Ratton leaving and the old man Ross Lyon returning to the fold.
Good question. I was totally shocked about Brett Ratton was sacked. When I heard the news, I thought it was a joke because his contract was renewed in July. Then what happened? Like, oh shit, this is joke. But I checked the AFA website and found out it's true. can't believe that. Then Los Lions, specular was growing up. I was like, no, no, no. He left the club harshly. No thanks. But day by day, I was expecting Los Lions, and now I'm excited because he might lead the boys to the grand final and flag. Then Lenny Hyde has come back. Brendan Goddard, Robert Harvey also came back to the club. So he had big backups, so it'll be nice.
Yeah, I think it's certainly disappointing for Brett Ratton. I think he put a lot of work into the club, but the decision was made by the club and they've got to move on. And Ross Lyon will be pretty exciting for St Kilda supporters, I think. And it will be interesting to see what he does different this time and whether he can take them back to a grand final because he's done that before.
Yeah, sure.
So really the only other thing I wanted to talk about with footy this week is the AFLW. Got the preliminary finals on this weekend. I watched the Brisbane Lions defeat what has probably been the powerhouse of AFLW the last few years, the Adelaide Crows. A little bit decimated by Port Adelaide coming into the comp and the likes of Aaron Phillips leaving them this year. So they haven't been quite as dominant, that's for sure. But Brisbane really just keep going from strength to strength and got a great coach there in Craig Starcevich and just so many good players. I really love watching the likes of Dakota Davidson and Courtney Hodder and Ola O'Dwyer. So they've got some really great, exciting players, Brisbane. And they will now host the AFLW Grand Final next weekend at their new ground at Springfield. So that's where they're new for all the club, their new facility at Springfield in Brisbane, where they're going to be training. But they're going to play the very first match at that ground next weekend and will host the Grand Final. And they'll be hosting the winners of today's match, which is Melbourne versus North Melbourne, played here at Icon Park. So, I'm tipping Melbourne to win that game today against North Melbourne. They've really been on the bill the last few years, Melbourne. They narrowly lost. Well, no, they lost to Adelaide in the grand final last year. But really didn't lose many players this year with the expansion teams coming in. So I think they're likely to beat North Melbourne, who have been much improved this year. But I just think that Melbourne are a step ahead of them. So likely, in my opinion, it'll be Brisbane versus Melbourne in the grand final next weekend. So you're looking forward to that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. I don't have time to watch the AFLW, unfortunately, but I think I agree with you. I'm tipping Melbourne as well. Yeah. They have a good players, have a good skills, experiences. So these to win.
Good one. And then if that is a Melbourne-Brisbane grand final being played up in Brisbane, I think probably it's going to be a very good game and hard to pick who will win that. My heart would say Melbourne, but my head would say Brisbane. So I'm going to get off the fence and I'll choose Brisbane.
Yeah, all right.
To win the title.
Brisbane is a good team as well tonight. They got the home ground advantage, so I would think Brisbane to win as well.
Yeah. So I think next time we talk on the podcast, we'll probably the AFL draft will be done. So maybe we can have a bit of a chat about what each of our teams have managed to draft in the 2022 AFL draft.
Sure. Look forward to it.
So I think that's about it for this podcast. So thanks to those who've joined us for our first podcast. We appreciate any feedback that you can give us, and look forward to seeing you again soon, Yoshi, for our next podcast. I think in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks, Roy, and thanks for everyone. And see you in 2 weeks.
So from me, Troy Thompson, and from him, Yoshi Imagawa, thanks for joining the Onsen Budgie Smugglers.
Thank you.